connecting the dots on unrestricted warfare.
That's all for today's China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer. If you have any feedback on the show or have something you'd like to see us cover, send us an email at chinainfocus@ntd.com. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks for watching. See you tomorrow.
Outlets in the United States are controlled by 6 corporations. They're not out to tell you the truth of what's happening. They're out to tell you the picture of the world that they represent. The Epoch Times is independent. We're not controlled by any special interest, and we never will be. This is a battle between truth and deceit, a battle between forces that would ensnare this country in ignorance, and between a media that wants to present you with the truth. Subscribe today to our digital edition.
Alaska. Officials say it's possible the balloon was blown off course. They insist the Chinese still had control when it floated over the South and the rest of the U.S. And right now, state lawmakers are receiving classified closed-door briefings on the situation. Many Republicans are calling on President Biden to address the public directly.
My phone's ringing off the wall, and we got a president of the United States and not seeing anything.
The U.S. says the balloon was equipped to detect and collect intelligence signals. Beijing insists it was a weather research.
These are now armed, according to a U.S. Navy revelation about 5 months ago, with the new JL-3 submarine-launched ballistic missile. U.S. intelligence officials also revealed that the balloon was aimed at Guam, but was mistakenly blown off course when it was gathered up by drafts and strong winds. Well, this is not believable at all, not credible. If the People's Liberation Army thought their surveillance balloon was being mistakenly directed, they could have prompted it to be destroyed, but they didn't. They were quite pleased that the balloon would be carried over the United States, that it would allow the PLA to observe several American nuclear weapons, because it can't go high enough for an electromagnetic pulse weapon to really be effective. And the use of the balloons to launch hypersonic glide vehicles was part of an aerodynamic test. They wouldn't be dropping those on American targets. But the balloon itself is a surveillance platform, imagery, and more importantly, weather data, so that the correct trajectory can be put on those warheads and hypersonic glide vehicles.
And Rick, you've been speaking about China's military buildup specifically in space. How should we read Biden's messaging on this balloon, and how do you think China will?
Well, the administration's delay for several days in shooting down this balloon sends a message of confusion and chaos. How will Biden react when China actually attacks Taiwan, slaughtering tens or hundreds of thousands of people? And why isn't the administration explaining plainly that the balloon was launched from one of the most important PLA nuclear weapons complexes? It is equipped to help target Chinese nuclear warheads, and its traversing the United States represents a Chinese exercise in nuclear coercion and intimidation.
That's pretty serious. Rick, do you think it's accurate to say that this does represent then a nuclear threat from China?
It is part of the complex of systems, Josh, that allow China to accurately target its nuclear weapons. It can't be overstated that estimating the weather, the density of the atmosphere, the direction of the winds, whether there's rain or snow over a target, is crucial to the targeting of these weapons. A balloon inside the atmosphere will always obtain better data, weather data, than satellites in space. And this balloon is controlled by the Strategic Support Force, most likely. The Strategic Support Force also controls the satellites and is intimately involved in the targeting of Chinese nuclear weapons.
And Rick, there have been 3 other objects that crossed into U.S. airspace, and we're not really being given clear answers for any of them. What do you think they are?
It's hard to say at this point, Tiffany, absent leaks from the government or actual press conferences talking about them. They are a very varied shapes, sizes, much smaller than the Chinese balloon. Are they also attempts by China to gather intelligence, or are these balloons launched simply by citizens on a lark? I mean, we see these kinds of balloons flying over used car lots most frequently. They're easy to buy. The Chinese make them. You can buy them by the boatload from Alibaba. It's just hard to say at this point.
It's creating a bright blue light before disappearing. The meteor was captured on camera, lighting up the night sky over northern France and parts of the United Kingdom in the early morning hours of today. Described by the European Space Agency as a small asteroid, it flashed brightly over Normandy, and the sight was described as unbelievable. All right, coming up.
Program, which is used to observe other countries from above. Beijing says that's not the case at all, and it's actually accused the U.S. of flying its own high-altitude balloons over its territory without having permission nearly a dozen times in the past year. Take a listen to the Foreign Ministry spokesperson.
U.S. high-altitude balloons have illegally flown over China's airspace more than 10 times without the approval of Chinese authorities. The U.S. should first reflect on itself and change course, rather than smear others and instigate a confrontation.
Some really harsh rhetoric there. Now, the White House firmly denies all of this. National Security Advisor John Kirby was on MSNBC just a little bit earlier and said point blank the U.S. is not flying balloons over China. And big picture, this balloon saga has meant any attempt to ease the tension between Washington and Beijing has fallen apart completely. Secretary of State Blinken has postponed planned travel to Beijing, and six Chinese entities the U.S. believes are linked to the aerospace program have been sanctioned. Ryan Thompson, Newsnet.